As a devoted advertising executive, Nelson Moss starts every day by walking around his apartment, mumbling ad slogans to himself. He ignores his girlfriend. Because of his schedule, he misses another meeting with her parents. This matters to him because his job account is at risk. He just received a big project and the final presentation is only a few days away. The pressure keeps rising and he barely has time to think about anything else. In the middle of everything, he remembers that he has a driver's license renewal test that he cannot miss. He forgot to prepare. He arrives with no preparation and looks stressed. During the test, he looks at the girl next to him and asks for help. This puts the girl in trouble. The strict examiner sees them talking and throws her out of the room. She can only retake the test in 30 days, which disrupts her own plans. They meet again in the parking lot. Nelson feels guilty. He offers a month's salary as compensation and gives her his business card. She notes his contact, says little and leaves quickly. That night, Nelson receives a strange call from the building staff. Sarah, the girl from the test, is at his apartment. During their talk, Sarah asks Nelson to be her personal driver as his responsibility for causing the problem. When Nelson refuses, Sarah starts yelling and scolding him. The neighbors come out to look and whisper among themselves. In the next scene, they are already driving together in Nelson's car. When they reach their destination, Sarah puts on a wig and says she will commit a robbery. She takes his car keys so he cannot escape. Minutes later, the building alarm rings. Sarah comes back with a large bag. She broke into a research institute to rescue 2 puppies that were going to be used for experiments. Nelson is shocked, but Sarah acts as if it is perfectly reasonable. When they return home, Sarah asks for one last thing. She wants Nelson to go up to her apartment and drink hot chocolate. Nelson agrees even though he does not want to. While they talk, Sarah observes him closely. She concludes that he is a hardworking man who is not happy. She offers him a deal. Nelson will live with her for 1 month. He must disconnect completely from his job. In return, Sarah will help him solve his emotional problems and bring happiness back into his life. October is almost over. They can start on November 1st, which gives him only a short time to decide. Nelson thinks the offer makes no sense. He calls Sarah crazy and threatens to call the police if she comes again. Presentation day arrives. Nelson presents his idea with confidence. He believes the project will be approved. For the first time in his career, he receives a harsh rejection. He argues with the important client. The agency director fires him on the spot. When he goes home, his girlfriend breaks up with him. It becomes one of the worst days of his life and he feels everything collapsing at once. That night, the building staff disturbs him again. Sarah sends him a large box. When he returns the gift, Nelson tells her about his terrible day. Sarah tells him to think again about her offer. He is now alone and unemployed. He has nothing left to protect. Standing in the rain, Sarah convinces him. Nelson returns to Sarah's place and they spend their first night together. He does not understand why he agrees, but he feels he has no direction left. The next morning, Nelson calls his assistant. He asks for a meeting with the head of a major advertising agency. He is not serious about Sarah's plan. He plans to leave as soon as possible. Sarah takes his phone and says she already gave Nelson's clothes to the poor. For her, the first step in his recovery is removing his formal clothes, his phone, and even his watch. She insists he needs a full reset. Their conversation stops when a neighbor enters without knocking. The man pours coffee and flirts with Sarah as if it is normal. Nelson cannot accept this. He gets angry and walks out. Outside, he still finds strange things. Everyone seems to know that Sarah changes boyfriends every month and they act like it is normal. Even a small child guesses Nelson's identity without hesitation. Everything feels crazy to Nelson. He does not understand why Sarah lives this way. Sarah only says she has a strong reason. She then asks for the most valuable thing Nelson has: his time. Nelson reluctantly agreed to spend a full day with Sarah. The next day, they stayed together from morning to night and explored many places in the city. Through her actions, Sarah showed him that life was not only about working for profit. There were many things you could do simply for joy, like walking a dog, talking to strangers, or running a small business that brought comfort to people. She also talked about her past, the men she had dated and how she had helped them rebuild their lives. Nelson was most curious about why Sarah only dated someone for 1 month. Sarah explained that 1 month was enough time for healing without emotional complications. It created space for growth but avoided dependency. The day ended and it was time for Nelson to leave. For the first time, Sarah did not try to stop him. She felt sure that when Nelson returned to his empty and dull apartment, he would feel the difference and come back to her on his own. She believed the silence of his old routine would push him toward change. The next day they went to watch a toy boat race where Sarah's neighbor, a boy named Ebner, was competing. His boat was different because he built it himself with limited tools. Ebner was an orphan who lived with a foster family. Before the race began, the other children mocked his boat for looking strange. Nelson defended him and encouraged him. During the race, Nelson helped Ebner win first place by using a toy submarine to push the competitors aside without anyone noticing. That moment gave Nelson a small glimpse of what it felt like to be a father. Sarah said he handled it well in his own way and seemed surprised by how naturally he supported the boy. After that they had a deep conversation. After his parents died, Nelson could not bear living in the family home and moved to the city. As a child he dreamed of becoming a famous singer, but as an adult he chose a career focused on ambition and stability. Sarah listened closely and asked him to sing for her someday. Nelson smiled because no one had asked him that in years. The next day Sarah suggested they visit Nelson's family home. Her support helped him say goodbye to painful memories. Walking through the house reminded him of the life he tried to forget. Sarah gave him room to grieve without judgment. From then on they spent a lot of time together, enjoying each other's company, exploring the streets, eating simple meals, and taking long walks through parks and quiet neighborhoods. One day their peaceful routine was interrupted when a neighbor invited them to dinner. When they arrived, Nelson was surprised to see the neighbor dressed neatly with his girlfriend because he never expected that kind of formality. Not wanting to talk much, Nelson went to another room and turned on the TV. When an advertisement came on, Chaz joined him and started talking about the advertising world. Chaz turned out to be a well-known ad agent who had taken over a big account that Nelson previously failed to handle. Nelson realized that you did not have to look impressive to succeed in this field. You only needed to be yourself and understand people. During dinner, Sarah received a phone call from her sister that left her shaken, so she decided to go home. Her condition seemed to be getting worse, but she tried to stay cheerful and said she was only dizzy. Nelson sensed something deeper but did not push her. The next morning Nelson prepared to meet the director of a major advertising agency. This decision disappointed Sarah because November was not over and Nelson was already looking for a new job even though they had made an agreement. She feared he was slipping back into his old habits. The agency director turned out to be a terrible person who did not respect his employees. Nelson realized he no longer wanted that kind of life. He rejected the offer even though his assistant was shocked. After the meeting, he went straight to Sarah to apologize and told her he wanted a different path. Unfortunately, Sarah's condition kept declining. She struggled to hide her illness. Meanwhile, Nelson felt he was living the best days of his life. He told Sarah that and proposed to her while crying. Sarah refused, and in that moment Nelson finally learned the bitter truth. Sarah collapsed. A few years earlier she had been diagnosed with brain cancer but refused treatment. She chose to spend her remaining time away from hospitals and away from the pity of her family. Sarah lived on her own terms and did not want to burden anyone. That was why she often changed partners. She believed 1 month gave her enough time to care for someone without letting them see her weakness. Nelson was the only person who knew her secret, so she ended the relationship early. On Thanksgiving Day, Nelson suddenly showed up at Sarah's apartment with a big bag. He prepared a meaningful performance to show his love through symbolic gifts that represented the moments they shared. He ended it with the song he once promised her in a bar. When he left, Sarah found her apartment decorated with November calendars. There was a message on each page that said every month is November. Sarah and I love you every day. She cried because she understood how sincere he was. The following week they spent all their time together, trying to create as many memories as possible. They cooked together, visited familiar streets, and talked until late at night. But Sarah remained firm in her plan. On the first morning of December, she revealed a heartbreaking truth. She had decided to move back to her parents' home so Nelson would not see her suffer. She believed this would preserve his memory of her. She wanted Nelson to remember her as young and beautiful and full of energy. At their final goodbye, they held each other for a long time. They told each other they were in love before parting forever. Sarah walked away slowly while Nelson stood still, unable to speak, and with that the story ends here.